Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, once again joined by Zepsi. We both do some contract work for the HBAR Foundation, but we don't do these weekly updates in any official capacity. We're just coming to you personally to give you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. Welcome, Zep.
How's it going, Brandon?
It's going good. We have a lot to get into today, but I want to make the note, of course, as always, none of this is financial advice. We're going to be getting into the HBAR market. We might get into some speculation. We might get into the Hedera DeFi space, or we will get into the Hedera DeFi space. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. All right, Zep, so the first thing that I wanted to get into is the Digital Commodities Exchange. It was announced by the HBAR Foundation that they are going to be building their exchange on Hedera. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but we'll get into it in a little bit. Now, the CEO of DCX, Stephen Edkin, said, "We've been really impressed by Hedera's platform, which is perfectly designed to bring security to agri-food commodity trading. It provides the trust and transparency for risk to be more accurately assessed and managed. The tamper-proof audit log generated during a trade also allows users to share their verified trading history with suppliers of trade finance and other services. This unlocks access to services that small and medium-sized market participants are currently excluded from, and thus broadens the market and drives value creation." All right, Zep, and according to their website, they have some really big partners. I see Maersk on there, of course, one of the biggest companies in the world, and they trade commodities like rice, fertilizer, and grains. Now, I'm not exactly sure how they're using Hedera at this point, but their website does mention smart contracts, and they say all DCX platforms employ smart contracts. These self-executing contracts contain the terms and conditions between the buyer and seller written into code. Smart contracts make transactions traceable, transparent, and immutable. They also mention blockchain on there. Now, I'm not 100% positive if they are just using Hedera to add trust to their platform and transparency, or if they're setting this up like a decentralized exchange where they tokenize the assets and then use smart contracts to actually facilitate the trades. But next week, I actually have an interview with their CEO and CTO. So if anybody has any questions, just drop those questions down in the comments and we'd appreciate it. All right, Zep, so what are your thoughts on the Digital Commodities Exchange?
Yeah, I think it's a super exciting one for multiple reasons. But I think one of the first of them being that I remember in the white paper, or one of the white papers, one of the first use cases that was really sort of entertained was the idea of an exchange. And using the HCS for, I guess, adding fairness to that exchange, audibility, being able to see that a transaction happened when it did and there's no one being sort of front run, undercut, or anything like that. And having seen the demo that DCX put out, so far we know that each trade on the platform, I believe, will have its own audit log, which is on the HCS, which any user can then verify and then go on to Hashscan or whatever website's being used to track those transactions. So it basically means that any third party that wants to audit any transaction that's happened through that exchange, throughout the supply chain, whoever that actor might be, they can see an exact timestamp immutably on the HCS of when and where it happened. That's like the first layer of, I guess, adding more trust and transparency to these exchanges. And as far as I'm aware, it's the first we've really seen. I'm sure there's been multiple on private ledgers that have done this before, but I've never seen this use case or seen a DLT that can facilitate this kind of use case on the market yet. So I'm super excited there about DCX. And, also the partners, like you said, I think it's Maersk, however you said. They're the largest shipping line and vessel operator in the world since 1996. That's massive. And, there's multiple other partners. I think there's about 10 others listed on their websites. So this really could be the foot in the door moment for the HCS as becoming a real piece of these exchange infrastructures. And, very excited to see your interview next week and learn more about it.
If they are just using HCS and adding trust, of course, that's revolutionary enough. But if they're actually going to be using this as a DEX or similar to a DEX, and they're going to be tokenizing their assets and using smart contracts to trade those assets, that's really, really revolutionary. And what I really find interesting about this is, we saw the stuff with FTX, and if they can use the strongest parts of DeFi and CeFi and traditional finance, bring all those together to make a more efficient and trusted trusted platform that could really be impressive. And of course, it could become a competitive advantage for DCX, and they could be successful, but it also could be a proof of concept for other exchanges like the New York Stock Exchange, the CME. You could have the FTSE, and all the other exchanges around the world could take notice of this and see the efficiencies and the added trust that a ledger like Hedera could bring to the financial industry as a whole. So I'm really impressed with what they're doing, and I'm looking forward to getting more answers next week.
This idea of the cross between TradFi and DeFi and, everything that's going on in DLTs at the moment, that's obviously somewhere that's primed for a ledger like Hedera, both from its, governing council contacts, but also the enterprise grade of the ledger itself. I remember CoinMan tweeted out saying, the Australian Stock Exchange has left its DLT partner, who I think was Ethereum. And then we saw Sharky Rob, i.e. Rob Allen, SVP, Ecosystem Accelerator at the Foundation. He then put in a comment saying, he wants to try and get that conversation going. The next thing we see is he's at Australia NFT Fest, I think it was in Melbourne, on a panel with the Australian Stock Exchange. So yeah, I'm very excited about the future prospect of something happening with exchanges. And obviously we've seen it with the DCX, and hopefully that'll be our sort of the example that we can then use, to then go to other exchanges and be like, this is it, it's worked perfectly, this is our proof, not even proof of concept, it's here, it's working, it exists. And that's the domino from there, really.
Sure, absolutely. And speaking of Rob Allen, we had a great interview with him this past week, and I finally got a really good explanation of what the Guardian is. And of course, the Guardian is used by many of our environmental use cases. So let's hear from Rob real quick explaining it.
So Guardian, at a pure technology level, is a piece of open source technology that we've provided grants into some of our systems integration partners to build. It sits on top of the Hedera consensus service and the Hedera token service. What it effectively does is it takes the data produced by projects, like carbon projects, renewable energy facilities. It could be a reforestation project. It could be agricultural regen like Dovu do. And all of that data is verifiable on chain, on Ledger. And coupled with the digital identities of the actors in that project, so using self-sovereign identity, verifiable credentials, verifiable presentations, creates this chain of trust. Now, no other ledger can handle that sort of scale of data. What Guardian does is it creates effectively NFTs. It's a token, a native Hedera token, which carries all the metadata from that project. And what that actually then means is that marketplaces can form to sell those tokens to buyers. So you've got supply side and you've got buy side. But we've created with Guardian this kind of value chain that's all the way up to the tokenization, which removes friction. And there's lots of friction in the current carbon markets where projects come into a market. It's very difficult for them to be registered with one of the registries, very difficult for them to have credits issued, and very difficult for buyers to find those credits. We're solving for all of those problems. And although we talk about Guardian, it's not just this tokenizer, it's the whole ecosystem. So it's the ARM. So the ARM is a automated regression market maker. It's an AI-driven, very, very smart piece of kit, which matches the tokens, the credits, with the signals coming from the market on the buy side, and does it in a very scalable, very efficient way. We've got visualization tools. We've got Miko providing wallet infrastructure. We've got centralized exchanges and marketplace integrations. And we've also got financial platforms. So once we've removed the friction from the end-to-end value chain in the carbon markets and the biodiversity and sustainability markets, what we need is a step change in the amount of finance coming in so that we get more and more projects, more mangrove swamps, more reforestation, more peatlands, more biodiversity projects in Africa, more emissions tracking in agricultural supply chains. Carbon and sustainability projects in particular require the majority of the value to go back to those who are doing the work and not the middlemen. So, for example, I was speaking at COP to some amazing ladies from the Amazon who are representing tribes people who are reforesting and stewarding their, the rainforests. They see cents in the dollar. They literally see a tiny fraction of what the carbon market price gets, whereas the majority of it goes to brokers in New York. That's not fair.
No.
It's not equitable, and it's not scalable, because the tribespeople are then influenced by other sources of income because they need to survive.
Sure.
And what we need is to get fair market price to the right people. Most of us love to hug a tree, but it doesn't feed the kids. And when you're in an environment where you're kind of subsistence living, then the incentives have got to be right in order to protect the habitats and the natural world assets that are diminishing very quickly. And you need proper, efficient, verifiable, auditable market infrastructure in place, and that's exactly what we're doing.
All right, so it was great to get an explanation on what the Guardian was. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, Zep?
Yeah, so like Rob said in the video, I believe, one of the key pillars of the Guardian ecosystem is the ARM, or the ARMs rather, i.e. the automated regression market makers. And yesterday we saw Token Engineering. I mean, they're 7.5 thousand followers on Twitter, but they're based out of Berlin, and they do a lot on the sort of the more technical side of DLT and looking into things like sustainability. And they put out a full, extensive, deep dive tweet thread into the ARMs, and I think that was just great to see. Beyond the voices of the foundation, the Hedera, but other platforms talking about the ARM. I think that was really cool to see.
Yeah, and along the same lines of sustainability, Michael Garber, he is one of the employees at Swirls Labs. He put out this thing asking how many transactions does it take to power a light bulb? And of course, Hedera is the most efficient, more efficient than Solana and even centralized systems like Visa. All right, so the other thing that I wanted to take from Rob's interview this past week is he's always great for a morale booster. He is the king of sound bites when it comes to the Hedera community, and I wanted to show this quick clip as well.
I'm really, really excited now. I'm hearing a lot more of this narrative about the the next bull run being the bull run of utility, because there is only one ledger that's kind of placed really for utility across every sector, across every use case. All the use cases that popped up in the early days of the blockchain craze and died away again because blockchains couldn't cope. We're seeing Hedera solutions delivered across the board: micropayments, supply chain, ESG, all the things that we talked about, NFTs, the fantastic NFT community we've got. And as I keep saying, NFTs everything's going to be tokenized, and pretty much, unless it's a fungible token, by definition, it's going to be a non-fungible token. Mm-hmm. So everything that the NFT community are putting in place now are the foundations of pretty much everything that is going to be built on Hedera in the future. I couldn't be more bullish than where we are. I love crypto winters because I'm a builder, and I love to see things being built, and I'm easily distracted by noise. So I like the noise to go away and building cool stuff. And wherever I look, I see cool stuff being built.
All right, Zep, before we move off the ESG topic, do you have anything else to add?
Today and yesterday, so the UCL, obviously governing council member, top 10 university in the world, University College of London, their blockchain society has been hosting some webinars, within their their classrooms or their seminar rooms or whatever, but digitally. And we've had speakers, including Lehman Baird, but we also had Wes Geisenberger and Anya, who is another member of the Sustainable Impact Fund. And they were basically talking about, ESG on Ledger, talking about regenerative finance, talking about the Guardian, this kind of stuff. So it's great to see, these PhD students, master's students, learning about the next gen tech, who are at the cutting edge of, environmentalism. And, hopefully what I'd love to see is someone do a PhD on this kind of stuff, on Ledger, how ledgers public digital ledgers can help carbon credits in the carbon markets and stuff like that, and obviously have Hedera there. So yeah, I think getting those conversations in with those students that are going to be, pioneering the next wave of tech and sustainability, it's great to see Wes having those conversations.
And shifting gears a little bit, we had something put out by Cointelegraph. It was a research paper, and it had a lot of things about Hedera. I think they're starting to weed through some of the stuff, some of the noise, with all the FTX stuff. They're starting to see the cream rise. They know that Hedera is bringing value. They're probably going to embrace the utility bull run like we've been talking about. And the paper paper was called Marketing Buzz or Tech Revolution. And they had a few things about Hedera in there, including some quotes from Dr. Lehman Baird and Mance Harmon. Dr. Lehman Baird was asked, what is required for wider adoption of Web3? And he said, we're seeing exponential growth of the usage of Web3 technologies, both by early adopters as well as by some of the largest consumers and business-to-business brands in the world. We're still at the beginning of the adoption cycle, so wider usage is definitely coming. Regulatory clarity will be important in making some Web3 products more mainstream, particularly in regulated industries like financial services and government. And simplification of systems to the point where they're seamless to use is also a must. For example, rather than asking everyone to remember a 24-word passphrase to access their accounts, functionality like decentralized recovery will make Web3 much more accessible to a larger audience that's not at the bleeding edge of technology adoption. And not to be left out, the other co-founder of Hedera was asked, how will Web3 change traditional industries, and are there any industries where you already perceive Web3 adoption? And he said, Web3 is going to affect both back-end and front-end consumer-facing processes. The back-end processes will integrate tokenization and decentralized finance into digital workflows to drive efficiencies. Front-end processes will give companies new ways to engage with their customer base that goes far beyond what's possible today. All right, Zeb, what were your thoughts on this one?
I mean, super refreshing to see. You know, it's definitely the best thing that we've ever had with Cointelegraph. You know, hands down. And you know, we're at the very start of the paper. You got Mance, Lehman, Mance quotes. The first project to be talked about was Hedera. You know, you can't miss it. It's like if you're even gonna lazy in reading 4 pages, you wouldn't have missed Hedera there. And like you just said, I think this really talks to the fact, you know, we've seen the collapse of something like the FTX empire. We've seen this sort of yearning for stability and maturity and utility. And I really think that this is a very promising indication of a turning tide for DLTs like Hedera. And I really hope that this relationship with Cointelegraph continues to blossom, really.
Well, like you said, I think they just want to find things that are trustworthy, that are solid, and Hedera's perfect for that. You know, the cream's going to rise, as I mentioned, and Hedera's going to be one of those platforms that really brings real world value, and I think that's going to be appreciated more and more by the crypto media outlets. All right, so the next thing I want to touch on, we missed this last week. They actually announced on Thanksgiving, so I didn't see that Club Yamgo had launched last week, but they launched, so I reached out to Ryan with Yamgo, and of course he works with AdStacks as well, to get some information, so listen to this quick clip. So Ryan, how did everything go with the launch of Club Yamgo?
Well, it's gone really well. I mean, the reception we've received is amazing. People have joined the club. They're all receiving their rewards. We have our first people holding Yamgo token, and everybody's on their way to earning their first Yami NFTs as well. So it's all been really positive, and there's a lot of positive discussions around it. And yeah, we couldn't be happier. The only thing we want is more people to join the club.
So what's the thing that you're most excited about Club Yamgo?
For me personally, the great thing for us is now we can start talking about all the things we're working on. We can talk about the game, and we can talk about the NFTs and how it's going to work. There's a lot of time we spent where we've just been in sort of, let's say, stealth mode, where we're working on it behind the scenes, and we want to tell people everything. Look at all this cool stuff, but we don't want to, you know, sort of release information too soon and have people waiting. So now being able to talk about it and having our white paper live at yamiverse.com, which you can find in our Discord and also at yamiverse.com. We can tell people about all of the planned utility and the gaming projects and everything, so that's really good. But the other thing that's exciting is the community response, the feedback we've had, everybody engaging and chatting together, and it's all been really, really good.
Sounds like fun. I'm certainly having fun with it already. So what are the first steps that somebody has to take to get involved with it?
So if you go to yamgo.com, you sign up for a Yamgo account, then in there is a Club Yamgo section in the main nav. And if you click on that, you can follow the steps to go through. So if somebody has, there's a minimum HBAR threshold of 1,000 HBAR. You put that in your account. We're non-custodial. We don't lock up your HBAR. It always stays in your Hedera account. You follow the steps there, associate the Yamgo token and so on, and then you can receive your first rewards. Speaking
of games, do you want to tell us about Astronova?
Yeah, so the team at Astronova, they're the cross between, they've got the Deviants, who are their NFT project, firstly on Ethereum, but minted on Ethereum. And then when they come across into the Hedera universe, into the Astronova game, they'll be HTS, and they sort of turn into characters, I believe, within the game. So those NFTs will be playable within the Hedera ecosystem. They're building on Unreal Engine 5, which is really cool to see, which is the most advanced sort of graphics engine at the moment. So yeah, excited to keep an eye on them. You know, I'm very excited about the Hedera gaming ecosystem. We saw Hedera Dragons get a shout out from the foundation this week. They're a great project based in the UK as well. They've built these amazing, basically NFT cards, which are really beautiful. Like I really love Oriental art, and they've managed to make these really beautiful dragon trading cards. Like, you know, you got Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, this kind of stuff. These cards are obviously Web3, so they've got more utility than just a physical card in real life. And so he's actually built a trading card game where you can actually play like battle with your cards within this game. You know, real sort of, you know, when I was younger, man, that was like the dream. Like the idea of actually being able to use my cards in a metaversial kind of world, like, you know, like you saw on the TV. So yeah, massive shout out to Hedera Dragons there. They've done a lot with gaming on the HTS, and they're even integrated into Steam, which is the biggest gaming marketplace. So they've done a really interesting workaround to get NFTs in a functioning NFT game into their ecosystem, which is really smart. And yeah, really excited to see what they do there.
Gaming in the Hedera space is really exciting. And you mentioned Unreal Engine. Karate Combat actually uses that for all of their backgrounds. They have this huge LED panel behind them. It's really impressive to see in person, and it's impressive to see online as well. But they have their next event coming up on December 17th. And of course, they're building their token on top of HTS, and they're building their app on Hedera as well. With the help of Blade Wallet, they're giving them some help on the back end. But here's a quick clip of their next event.
Karate Combat is back. KC37 coming up December 17th in Orlando, Florida at the back lot of Universal Studios. Raymond Daniels versus Rafael Agaya meet in the pit for the interim welterweight championship. GOAT versus GOAT, hero versus hero, legend versus legend.
Can only be one GOAT.
This is one of those fights where everyone goes, wow.
The bantamweight title is on the line. Owen Chalmia against Jesus Lopez.
Highly aggressive, explosive martial artist. We have another exciting match coming up. Samuel Harrison versus Tarek Khalifi.
GSP in the booth.
December 17th.
December 17th. December 17th from the backlot of Universal Studios Orlando.
Go get your tickets. Karate.com/tickets.
All right, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it to that event, but I'm hoping I can make it down there. But either way, Karate Combat always puts on a great show. So the next thing I want to talk about is next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be talking to the teams that are building the tooling for Hedera devs. So we have LedgerWorks, we have Archaea, we have hgraph.io, Cripsy, Joget. We have all those teams that are trying to build the tools needed by our developers in the space. There's all kinds of great stuff going on in this department. You know, Google wants to build the tools that are going to allow the next 10 million devs to onboard the next billion users into Web3. So these guys are all working in the right space. We also have a clip from HBAR Suite. Actually, it's a clip of a community member, Brandon. He's been around for a really long time. He has a great opinion of HBAR Suite. And after listening to him, I have to agree they are building some fantastic tools. So listen in. Brandon, we know that HBAR Suite first created the HBAR meme coin and are going to be launching a new kind of DEX very soon, but they've developed some other tools as well. Can you tell us about them?
Yeah, man. Brandon, I appreciate you having me on. Just to back up just a second, just to let people know how I'm involved. So I'm not here in any official capacity. I'm a part of the H Suite community, you know, like everyone else that's there. I do have some official role there. In the spring, they launched a community-driven treasury committee, and they selected 15 members from separate areas of the Hedera community and put us on the multi-sig treasury wallet. You know, I have been talking with Tapachi in the HBAR lounge for a little over a year now, and in the spring, they decided to go with this multi-sig community treasury initiative. And I got really interested in because I like this idea of decentralized trust. You know, I don't have to trust that I know someone's identity. I don't have to trust that, there's a team multi-sig. Like, this is really community driven and really decentralized. And so that's sort of how I got involved. Since then, they've also developed a smaller treasury wallet, which I'm also on. And full disclosure, I do get weekly drops of H Suite to perform those obligations. It comes out to like 250 HBAR a week. So, I mean, it's like $10.
Sure.
So I'm not doing this for the money, but it's a nice gesture. So they've launched these other tools. They do have the DEX coming, but in the last few weeks, they've launched a token builder, like a token manager. And they've also launched a DAO tool. And they also have a multi-sig wallet feature coming that will allow anyone in the community to develop and manage their own multi-sig wallet. And so I think if you look at these tools as a whole, they're really trying to build something that will allow someone like me to, go on Hedera and, bootstrap and build my own project without really having to be able to code anything. So, I went on the testnet and I started using the token manager and sort of just documented that process. So I wanted to put out a video about, how to use the token manager. And so I did that. I put together like a 10-minute video and I dropped it on YouTube. And then I had a good idea. I'm like, I could put this video inside an NFT and distribute this video with an NFT. And that got me pretty excited. So I created like a small run of AI generated art and sort of handed that out to some friends of some pirates, in case no one knows, I like the pirate theme. But I really got attached to them. And that's sort of what made me want to go out and, let the community know, hey, there's this really cool tool out there that you can use to build your own tokens. And so I put this 10-minute video in the NFT. I sent that video out to some more friends. And one of my good friends, Milan, he was like, hey, man, I have a really good idea. You could put a website up as a centralized depository for this thing. And then if people want to come and get it, you can just send it to them. I'm like, oh, okay, that's really cool. So I did that. Next thing I'm manually sending out like 300 NFTs. And so it sort of had a lot more uptake than I thought it would. But that sort of led to my next idea of, this started with the video of the token builder. I'm going to document my process through using the token builder, the DAO tool, maybe the multi-sig wallet, and eventually I need to automate this, this token swap. Document all that stuff and put it out as an education piece, as an NFTV. And this stuff is all free. The tokens don't have any fees. I'm not making any money from this, but I just want to put that education out for the community. To use the token builder, if you do go on the mainnet, it is token gated. So you need to either have 500,000 H Suite in that wallet or one of their 3 HBAR NFTs. They have a bronze, a gold, and a silver. And I think the bronze floor price is like 200 HBAR or 2,000 HBAR on Zeus. So it's probably cheaper just to buy the H Suite token. And then the next thing is the DAO tool. So they have a DAO tool. So anyone from the community can go on and create their own decentralized autonomous organization. They have 2 options. You can do a classic DAO. So anyone can submit a proposal. Anyone can vote on the proposal. They also have a limited DAO option where you basically have 2 layers of voting. So you distribute some sort of voting token. So anyone can submit a proposal. The initial vote is the people who hold the voting token. And then the second vote, if it gets pushed forward, is anyone who holds the project token. So there's some options there. And that's how the H Suite and the HBAR DAO, that's how they currently work, and they're using that. So I did create a DAO for my project NFTV. I haven't made that video yet. I had to work a few things out. I was having some trouble uploading an image, and what I found is that if the image you upload must end in JPEG or PNG. And I know that I'm pretty computer illiterate, so everyone was laughing at me like, "Oh yeah, no one else is going to make that mistake." Oh no, I did. So I'm going to do that, and I think I'm going to do some sort of giveaway or promotion for people that watch that video. Probably give away like a top tier NFT on Hedera, and there's going to be some voting feature, so people have to go and vote on the DAO I created. Haven't quite worked out all the details yet, but that should be coming soon. Going forward, they are going to launch, hopefully the multi-sig wallet feature will be launched by the end of the year. Their NFT decentralized exchange should be on testnet in a week or 2. And then their fungible token DEX should also be launched, hopefully, by the end of the year. And they have some pretty neat features there. They developed this exchange that's going to have no slippage. You can see transactions pop up in Hashpack. You can see exactly, I'm going to send X amount of tokens, I'm going to get X amount of tokens. And if that transaction doesn't go through for some reason, you won't have to pay the gas fees for that. And it's all atomic swaps, which I think is pretty cool.
And without using smart contracts, it's going to be hyper efficient as well, right?
Yeah, I think so. This is basically a .NET. I think the way Hedera initially envisioned projects would build. And so everything's run at the native layer. It's run at the native speed. It's run, for cheap fees. For instance, this whole project. So when I created the account for this NFTV project, I sent 1,000 HBAR over there. So I've minted over 300 tokens, transferred almost 300 tokens, and I still have 943 HBAR left. So, that's like what, $3?
Yeah.
It's the bar to entry is so low, man. It's really, and that's what really got me excited. And I don't know if you've seen the NFT that Walla Wallet sent out. I think it's called the Super Dog or something. Yeah. But this NFT, it's amazing. So it has multiple photos in it, multiple PDF files in it, multiple videos in it. And so when I looked at it, I'm like, man, this is like a magazine. Like it really opens up the use cases for NFTs and what's going to be done with them. It's really going to be amazing, going forward.
Yeah, you could have a magazine, right? And you could sell it as an NFT instead of selling it, as a hard copy or on a subscription in a regular media outlet or something along those lines. So, Brandon, I hear about you working with H Suite. I hear about you working with Milan, who's also working with the team at Earthlings. It's just great to see the entire Hedera community coming together and leveraging off the tools that we're building to make this ecosystem that much more rich and vibrant. Thank you so much for swinging by.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I sure appreciate it. And just for one more plug, there's another video on the site I created. The Twitter handle is NFTV on Hedera. I did a little short video about Lehman Swap, about their straw NFTs. I was a little confused about that at first. And so when I figured out, I was like, I'm just going to throw this 2-minute video out. Also, just to sort of say, hey, this is what this is about. And, just let me play with that token builder a little more.
Good stuff. Thanks again, Brandon.
Yeah, man. Take care.
All right, Zep, I'm really impressed with what they're building. Do you have any thoughts on Web3 tooling?
Yeah, obviously the tooling that the community is building is exactly what we need to make everything as frictionless as possible. We spoke about Kabila app last week as well, the NFT tooling side of things. They're a sort of Spanish side, making the Spanish community, but also making some great tools to get NFT creators in. But alongside that, I had a conversation today and yesterday with Milan at Hedera Dev on Twitter. Been in the Telegrams for so long, been in Hedera for so long. I created the Botler, which is in the HBAR Lounge, which is a great piece of fun. You can talk to the bot and it replies and does all sorts of stuff. He's been making these amazing proof of concepts so far that he's shared with me, but it's all through no code on Hedera, which is, amazing to see. It's like so many people have amazing ideas, but there's always that friction point where, if you don't know JavaScript or you don't know Solidity or whatever it is, it's going to be difficult to implement them. And it's going to be difficult to get these conversations going. And so Milan is really trying to pioneer this sort of low code / no code side of things. And I've seen what he's been making and it's really great. So yeah, check out Hedera Dev and I hope to see more of that on the public side of things soon.
All right, and calling all devs for next Tuesday, 6 p.m. If you want to talk to any of these teams that are building the tooling, we're going to have that Twitter space, so certainly check it out. You want to get into some network analysis there, Zep?
Definitely.
All right, so starting off with the transactions, we're still under 1 million transactions per day. The one bright spot as far as transactions is the smart contracts, and that has to do with Saucer Swap. Because they're going to single-sided staking, they're deprecating some of their pools. So, of course, that means people have to withdraw liquidity, and they have to put liquidity back in. And it's also provided some trading opportunities, some arbitrage opportunities, and that's why we have smart contracts up over 50,000 smart contract calls over the past 24 hours. So that's certainly good to see. Time to consensus is still under 5 seconds, like always. Do you have anything on account creation, Zep?
We're not above last week, so it's a slow week on the account creation. I think, yeah, just a bit of a slow week across the metrics, really, beyond smart contracts. I saw a lot of people in the community saying about Atma.io is meant to be going at the end of full, and very annoyingly, there's 2 ways of measuring full, at the end of full. One is, I think, like the meteorological system, which is ended today. And the other one is, I can't remember the name of it, but it says that it ends on the 21st.
It's so the winter...
Yeah, the winter solstice.
The winter solstice.
Yeah, so there we go. So we've got hopefully that gives us a bit of leeway, but obviously, frustrating. And I really, really hope we see those transactions come on in that time. So fingers crossed there.
Well, in that interview I did with Rob Allen, he was certainly confident about it. So going on to the fungible token summary, Wrapped, HBAR, and Sauce, not surprisingly because of the things that I just mentioned, they are the top transactions as far as our fungible tokens. An energy trade token, of course, is in the top 10 because of their faucet, and we have HBARX, USDC, and Dovu also in the top 10. All right, Zep, so moving on to our NFTs, there's a few in there that I don't recognize. We have Flower Punk Society, we have Cool Canines. I also see in the top 10 Web2.3 domains. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so Web23 have done a few partnerships recently to make sort of custom domains for different dApps or applications on Hedera. So they did one with Blade, so they've got the .blade domains. They've got the one with Hashcrab, so they've got the .crab domains. So yeah, they've been really sort of branching out into the ecosystem and letting the dApps have these own personalized domains, which is really cool. And alongside that, last week, Hashgraph Name, who are the HNS, they released the emoji HBAR domains last week. So you can whatever emoji you want, whatever stream of emojis you want, you can then have the .hbar after them, which is really cool because I've never seen that before. So yeah, shout out to both companies in the name service on Hedera, and it's great to see the competition there, and I hope they both continue to push each other to innovate.
And Kabuto is also throwing their hat in the ring, adding some more friendly competition to make it better for consumers all around. So there was a couple other things when it comes to NFTs. So our friends at Potluck Protocol, they put out NFTs around winter sweaters. And of course, it has the HBAR symbol on it. They actually have physical sweaters out there as well. And here we got Lehman actually wearing one. They had a meetup down there at Worlds Lab's office down there in Dallas. That was good to see. And also on Thursday, December 15th, we have the Hedera Community Holiday Party where all kinds of NFT creators donate NFTs, and that's used for a women's charity down there in Dallas as well. They raised hundreds of thousands of dollars last year, and I'm sure we're going to beat that mark this year. So definitely follow Hello Future Buzz to get more information on that one. All right, and moving on to DeFi, as far as Saucer Swap, we're almost at $16 million total value locked. As I mentioned, they are deprecating several of their liquidity pools in preparation for single-sided staking. Here are the instructions for what you need to do. They have a banner going across all the time, making sure people understand they need to do this to gain their farming rewards. But the first step is to identify if you're providing liquidity to a deprecated pool. If you are, you can unstake those LP tokens on the farming page. You have to click on the inactive tab. Then you can navigate to My Pools on the liquidity page and withdraw that liquidity. And then those tokens are going to be put into your wallet. And then you can go ahead and resupply that liquidity and go to the farming page and start farming those rewards again. As people are going through this process, we've seen a significant jump in the farming rewards on Saucer Swap. So HBAR USDC is sitting at 74%, HBAR Sauce is sitting at about 80%, and HBAR is at 27%. And in recent weeks, that's been sitting down around 20%. And like I mentioned, this has provided all kinds of trading opportunities and arbitrage opportunities between HeliSwap and Saucer Swap and so forth. And because of all that trading that's going on, the LP rewards, which of course are on top of your farming rewards, have gone up as well. HBAR is sitting at 5.5%, HBAR Sauce is sitting at 6.3%, and USDC HBAR is sitting at over 50%. So pretty impressive LP rewards as well. And Saucer Swap has been making some good business decisions. You can tell they have traders in mind. I know one thing, I use mobile a lot to just monitor what's going on Saucer Swap. And now when I refresh, instead of it resetting to HBAR and Sauce as the default swap, it'll keep whatever you had up last. So if you're looking for arbitrage opportunities, for example, with USDC and HBAR, it'll keep those two pairs up there so you can recheck and refresh what those rates are. So moving on to HeliSwap, we're sitting at $5.4 million total value locked on that platform. And the farming rewards have come up this past week a little bit as well. On USDC HBAR, we're sitting at 85%. HBAR is sitting at 24%. USDC OHM is sitting at 186%. And HBAR OHM is sitting at 132%. And to give a quick update on Stater, it's kind of like a broken record. The APY is still sitting at about 10%. Total value locked is at 1.34 billion HBAR. And the HBAR exchange rate has finally broken over 1.2 HBAR per HBAR, meaning if you've been participating in HBAR liquid staking from the beginning, you've earned a little over 20% in terms of HBAR. And moving on to the crypto and HBAR markets, HBAR is down a little bit on the week, sitting at about 4.8 cents, and it's underperformed a little bit. We're down about 2.5% over the past week. We are seeing higher lows, which is a good sign, and this trend line looks like it might provide support at around 4.6 cents. And we're setting up some resistance at about 5.1 cents. Zooming out a bit, risk assets took a little bit of a hit on Friday morning. The jobs data came in a little bit hot, and that could be bad for inflation, and that's going to put pressure on the Fed to remain hawkish, which is going to be bad for all risk assets, stocks, and of course, crypto is wrapped up in that as well. All right, Zep, that's pretty much all we have. Is there anything else you'd like to pass on before we let you go?
Just, it's been another busy week, building on last week, which was a very busy week, and the week before, and so on and so forth. We're on a trajectory of a huge amount of content every week, and it seems to only accelerate. It's like, I remember you've obviously been here since a 1 center. I'm not quite that big an OG. But I've been here for over 2 years. It was when I first joined here, it was like this amazing tech, amazing everything, amazing governance, this is incredible, but not much stuff live or going live or a lot of it was just speculation. And it seems now that so much is coming out every week. We've branched into gaming, we've got DeFi, we've got NFTs, we've got enterprise use cases, we've got DYOR with Saudi Arabia, we've got DCX, with Singapore. Every week we have a new breath of life into these videos. And for me, it is, if it wasn't the bear market, I think everyone would be euphoric. But because it is the bear market, obviously that wind in our sails isn't as strong as it could be. But on a fundamental level, we are the best we've ever been. I'm more bullish on Hedera than I've ever been. And there's more reasoning, there's more logic to that reasoning, more than there's ever been before. And it's just, next week I'm sure will be another big week, and the week after, and it's just, it's so exciting. But the end of fall, I'd like to see, Atmo.io come on properly. We saw that teaser when we hit like 5k at the peak TPS, half capacity on one shard, throttled at the moment. And, I think when that finally comes in, everyone's woes or any anxiety is going to be put to rest. That's going to come in, and I think when those TPS are there for a sustained period, that's going to be a new lease of life to us all, and really a new phase for us as HBAR variants, where we've got that one big TPS hitter. We know that DLA Piper are doing more on the TVR stuff, i.e. total value represented. We know Aberdeen are wanting to tokenize their funds. We've got all of this stuff, which is different ways of viewing it on chain, but we'll have that collateral behind us of that TPS. We'll be able to point to games that people can play. We can point to the dexes. We can point to the marketplaces. Our ecosystem is really, really coming together. And, Cointelegraph have obviously seen that. And, hopefully more and more of these magazines that they're focusing on the real players. That's only going to get faster and more traction there. And, so more excited than I've ever been. Obviously, the price of HBAR is a difficult one for us all. It's a hard pill to swallow. But, utility bull run, bring it on.
That's right. Bear markets are for building, and Hedera is certainly proving that. Remember, I might be a 1 center, but I rode that all the way down from 12 cents, so we have seen hard times in the past. I do agree with you that Atmo is going to be a completely new narrative, and if you watch that interview we did with Rob Allen, he gives us an update on Atmo, and he's certainly confident. Thank you, everybody, for watching today, and we'll see you next week.
Great to see you, Brandon.